before he ever asked about social media, we needed to make sure that he understood about all of the things, because once social media is available, you are looking at exposure to hate speech, cyberbullying, pornography. If you're not ready to talk with your child about these things, then neither one of you is ready for your child to have social media.
Welcome to the Healthy Screen Habits Podcast. I'm Hillary Wilkinson. Whether you're starting your parenting journey with a newborn or looking to connect with your teen on technology, let's learn some new healthy screen habits together. Each of us at Healthy Screen Habits has our own story to tell as far as like what brought us to this point. And today you get to hear our Chief Operating Officer, Jeannie Sprague's path to healthy screen habits. As one of the founding members of Healthy Screen Habits, Jeannie serves many roles, and she always has this steadfast cheerfulness and calm yet can-do attitude that honestly keeps the rest of us balanced and going. With a degree in educational psychology, Jeannie has over 25 years of experience with working with children. Her goal is to help people find balance in how they use their media, especially as it relates to family interactions. I know she keeps me balanced all the time, and I can't wait to share her with you. Welcome to the podcast, Jeannie Sprague.
Thank you, friend. It's so fun to be here with you.
Yay. It's fun to have you on the other side of the mic for a change. So, Jeannie, when we started Healthy Screen Habits, we all shared this like passion for educating and empowering families, but each one of us got to this spot from a different path. And I'm just wondering, could you share yours? What path brought you to Healthy Screen Habits?
Of course. So I have to take it back to even my undergrad days in one of my psychology classes and learning about how much media affects child development. And, this was a long time ago, but, we were talking about how much brains are impacted by the fast technology that we have now at our disposal. And I remember thinking then, I want to make sure that my kids have a good balance in their lives with what they're consuming and what they're seeing. And back then I could have never known that we'd be having this tiny little portable access to the world at our hands. And thinking about just even television at the time, I thought, okay, I want to make sure that we mediate that. But anyway, fast forward to about 2008 when I had my friend just out of the blue give me an invitation to Facebook. And, I thought, I don't even know what this thing is. And I clicked on it and I just opened up an account and I was off. And I posted on Facebook all the time. I, felt like it was a way to connect with other people. Fast forward again to 2009 when my daughter, who we were able to adopt, came to us. She had congenital heart defects, and we ended up in the hospital for, month and a half during an open heart surgery and recovery. And, I was in a terrible state of despair and, not knowing what was going to happen. And I felt like the social media that I was using was a way to connect with people. But fast forward again to 2014 when she had open heart surgery again and subsequent needing of a heart transplant. As you can imagine, I was, I don't even have the words, depressed, to say the least, but, was just being in the hospital for weeks on end left me feeling really lonely. And again, I'm turning to social media to connect with people, But at this point in my life, being through a lot of trauma, I realized that I was not really in a great emotional state. And so I'm looking at my feed on like Instagram and Facebook, and I'm scrolling and scrolling. I had this moment where I was like scrolling and scrolling and feeling like I needed to keep scrolling to try to connect with people. I was so lonely. I was in such a hard place emotionally. And I just remember thinking, what am I doing? Why am I on this? I'm not feeling connected to anybody. I'm not feeling like I'm getting the support that I really need. It was something that I knew was kind of broken for me. And I just felt at that time, I remember reading an article, gone through a digital detox. And
Mm-hmm.
he for a month left his phone behind, and went off into nature. He said everything that I was feeling at the time about my experience with social media and with technology, and that his life changed when he just put the phone away. Like, he looked out into the world, and instead of thinking, "Oh, how can I take this picture of this plant and then instantly post it on Instagram," he just stopped and looked at it and took it in, and for him, that was really living, and that was really connecting. And I thought, yes, that is what's missing for me right now in my constant need to check in with social media all the time.
I think it's so powerful to recognize that what you were craving was connection, which is what many of the social media platforms market is, oh, the ability to connect with others. But and it doesn't surprise me at all to hear that because I feel like you're very in tune with your inner soul, your inner workings. You were recognizing that what you were doing was the equivalent of being starving and eating a bag of potato chips.
Absolutely.
When what you needed was sit down dinner.
Right.
And so I think that's so powerful, so that we don't leave people hanging. Can you give a little bit of an update on your daughter's health today?
Oh, thanks for asking. Yes, she's actually doing really well. We had a lot of complications after the transplant, but now today she's thriving and just such a funny kid. And I'm so grateful that she's just a walking miracle. And I am so grateful that I get to witness that.
Oh, and I love when Jeannie and I will often have meetings via Zoom or Google Meets, and she'll pop in and actually is continually asking about baking things. So it sounds like your
Right.
house always has great stuff coming out of the kitchen, which I'm a little bit
Yes,
jealous about, but it's probably okay that I don't have
that's her
that.
talent. Yes, for sure.
Okay. Okay. As you know, Jeannie, like we have talked this season, I'm focusing on social media. So that was why I kind of found it interesting that like your journey to healthy screen habits actually kind of had its origin a little bit in that whole like roller coaster ride of your path with social media. So I would like to continue the story of your journey with social media, but first we need to take a short break. U.S. listeners, listen up. There are 2 Senate bills that would provide the most robust new online protections for children in nearly 25 years, and they are now at a pivotal moment. We need your help to help get them passed. The Kids Online Safety Act, or KOSA, and the Children and Teens Online Privacy Protection Act, or COPA, have the potential to make the digital world much safer for young people by banning surveillance advertising to children, holding big tech accountable for exploiting kids through bad design, and more. Earlier this year, the bills were advanced by Senate Commerce Committee and now have the potential to be voted on by the full Senate before midterm elections in November. That's where you come in. We need you to call your senators, email your senators for support in these essential bills. urge your senators to push these bills to the finish line and vote yes to support and protect American kids and teens from big tech's exploitive business model. I'm speaking with Jeannie Sprague, one of the founders of Healthy Screen Habits. Just before the break, you shared with us a little bit about this journey that you have had with social media and how it kind of brought you to Healthy Screen Habits. It sounds like it was kind of a very bumpy area at that point in your relationship with social media. So can you share how you got to where you are today? I guess I should first ask, like, where are you at with it today? And what was your process in getting there?
Right. I'm in a better place today. And I think what I realized was how much it became a part of how we interact as a people, which means that we need to be more conscious of how we use it. Right. So,
right. I think that whole thing of it being free too was like a huge thing. Like I wouldn't have signed up for a subscription service of something because I'm cheap, but that it was seemingly free was like, oh, sure, I'll try this out,
right.
And, without knowing that whole phrase that we all know now of if you're not paying for the product, you are the product. I didn't have that wisdom.
Well, we couldn't have known, right? And I think that's part of the problem is that there have been no ways to really train up the generations to use these products. And, really it's supposed to be a tool. Our phones are supposed to be a tool. These platforms are supposed to be tools for us to interact together. But, the tool is supposed to be something that you pick up and you use when you want to for your own benefit. But instead, they've all become things that are using us, right? Like I love that Cal Newport article with that image of the smartphone, coming out in 2007 and the guy is holding the smartphone and is smiling. And then 2013, I think, the smartphone is holding the guy, right? Because it's become something that is sometimes out of our control because of that constant need to check. Like when I was having that constant need to check, because like you said, I was craving some interaction and some emotional support and things that really those platforms they're not made for that.
Mm-hmm. So you said that you're in a better place with social media now. How did you get to that place? Was it just you found need for it, to use your word, as a tool? Or was it forced back on you? Or because I think for a while you were off social media completely, right?
Pretty much. I never canceled any of my accounts, but I really decided to stop using it. Because I felt bad every time I would pick it up. I'd feel this waste of time. Like, what did I just spend my time doing? And, everybody uses it for different reasons, but I struggle with the it's all about me mentality. And I struggle with, showcasing things that might make other people feel bad. So, when I realized that it was, for me, this particular thing we call social media is very superficial, then I decided, well, if I am going to use it to connect with people, to update people, then I'm going to use it on my own terms. And if you ask anybody that knows me well, or especially my children who I try to indoctrinate with this idea, I am my own person and I don't like doing what everybody else is doing. That bugs me to no end. To be a follower is very hard. And to literally be called a follower on social media is something that just irks me to no end. So everything I do on social media is intentional. And I feel like I can be on there and I can be a voice of positivity because there's so much negativity out there. And recently I felt like if I'm going to be on, then I can post something that is going to uplift somebody or is going to give some thought for good and also is going to be real. That's such an important part of human to human interaction, is just being real and being vulnerable with each other. And so I feel like I can go on and I can post maybe not like I'm not going to air all the dirty secrets, but I want to let people know, yeah, sometimes parenting sucks.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's hard and sometimes it doesn't go the way you want it to go. And I feel like being real like that is a really important part of helping others and, making sure people know that we're all in this together. We shouldn't be against each other.
Right. Okay. So we started Healthy Screen Habits. I think all of us had the shared concern for our kids. We're all moms, and I think our primary focus was this tech stuff is getting out in front of us. We don't know. And so we started reading and doing the research, and then we kind of became this go-to resource for local friends. And then we decided to get organized. So we have 14 kids between the 4 founding members. And at this point, we are all moms of teens, which is very it's a different chapter than where we started, maybe. And we
Yes.
have a very real world view of what social media can do to teens. But yet we also recognize that just like teaching them to drive automobiles, we want a kind of a long runway on this path to them getting their own accounts. We want to give them enough time to have their own growing pains, and
Mhm.
we're right there. And if we set this hard company line of you can have social media when you're 18, we don't really at my house, I didn't really feel like that didn't give me enough time to help them learn how to navigate social media and use it responsibly. I mean, chances are many teens are turning 18 and in fairly short order go right off to school. At least that's how it
Right.
works out in my house. So let's talk about how to get teens ready for their own accounts. Did you guys take any special steps in your house?
We did. Well, first of all, we are trying to do that practice, kind of the long haul practice with phones in general, right? I love the wait until eighth campaign where, you hold off on giving your kid a smartphone until at least eighth grade. And so we did that. And before that, we did with my oldest, we gave him a dumb phone, if you will,
Mhm.
a flip phone. And, he even told me that that was even distracting. So it's like, oh my goodness, imagine what a smartphone would do. We only have 2 kids now with phones, and my daughter, who's 14, still has it's a smartphone, but we dumbed it down. She doesn't use it like a smartphone. So she doesn't have any social media phones. So my oldest is the only one that has gone through this training, so to speak. And he did not get any social media until he was 16. Which was interesting because he was 16 during COVID shutdown. And I heard a lot of people say to me, I'm going to go ahead and give it to them because, this is their only way to interact. And because, they're not at school and everything's social distanced. And I mean, every parent has to decide what the cost benefit analysis. So before he ever asked about social media, we needed to make sure that he understood about all of the things, because once social media is available, you are looking at exposure to hate speech, cyberbullying, pornography, the works. If you're not ready to talk with your child about these things, then neither one of you is ready for your child to have social media.
Right.
So we as a family, we talk openly about these things. Um, we we laid out, okay, what does cyberbullying look like? What is pornography? What does that look like, and what do you do about it? Because they're going to see it. It is absolutely 100% inevitable. You cannot avoid it.
Mhm.
And so it's not like I've heard you say over and over again, it's not the if, it's the when.
Right.
And so do we have plans in place for what to do when you see that? And are you willing and open to talking about it with your child. So, we went through that with our oldest, and also talked about some of the things that I had been feeling. Like I mentioned, am I showing off things? Am I just posting the highlight reels? And is it just making people feel bad if they see a post of mine? Like, what is my purpose in posting right now? What is it that I'm
Right.
trying to accomplish?
Kind of
Right? Like,
what's your why
what?
behind
Yeah,
showing it?
exactly. And making sure that we talked about that, so that when he went to post, that, he stopped and thought about it before he actually put anything on. So, I mean, that's the outside stuff, but then you've got the whole direct messaging, the DM thing, and that's how kids
Mhm.
communicate these days. And I remember him coming to me. I despise Snapchat. And, he came to me and said, Mom, I'm working. That's how they do all their scheduling changes, is messaging through Snapchat. And I was like, oh, here we
Ugh,
go.
yeah.
But that's the reality, like you said, eventually they're going to turn 18, and they're going to have all these apps at their disposal anyway. You're not going to stop them, nor should you, because they need to be making choices. But this time, whenever you decide to open it up to them, that should be their training time, when they are making the mistakes, but then you're helping them along the way. And I thought, well, I'm not going to be able to keep this from him, but now if he has access to it, I can help monitor and help guide him along, and kind of be there in that training seat, like just as I sat with him in the driver's training seat. I just think that constant conversation, the constant asking of, why are you doing this? What's your purpose in it? And what are you trying to accomplish on these platforms, is the most important thing we can do.
Yeah. Yeah. And I can share a little bit about what we have done in our house, because every family is different. Everybody, you get to choose your own adventure on this path to
Mhm.
parenting. And in my house, what we have done is I let my daughter, I put her in charge of doing the posts from my account.
Right.
So that a fun weekend or something like that. And I'm like, hey, could you put together a post from my Instagram account? And so she had practice with doing it. And and we talked about then when she would, write up the little caption, we'd talk about wording and we'd talk about, so she kind of had, that's really, to go back to the driving analogy, that's like being with the driver and the driving instructor who has their own brake pedal.
Right.
you know where it's like, I mean, that's really ultimate control. And then, moving forward from there, after she'd had done that for a while, then moving into getting her own account and also having lots of conversations around, my poor kids are subject to watching every documentary out there
Right.
on what this whole realm of digital wellness. And so I think we talk about it a lot. We have all of those conversations, and she knows that we retain full right to that, if she has her own account, we follow it, and we
Right.
we definitely have the conversation about finstas or fake Instagram accounts. And so just by sharing that knowledge of, I know that this is out there, and yes, you may be exposing them to the fact that it's like, oh, I could do that,
Right.
but it's I mean, it shows that you're not naive to that world also. So I think it
Totally.
it strengthens your credibility as a parent.
Well, and it also, we cannot know all the things. They're always going to know way more about it
Oh, totally.
than we ever could.
Right.
And it's, you can do all these things, and they can still create an account on their own, like on a computer or something, without having it be an app on the phone. These things happen all the time. And I
Yeah.
think, I mean, there can be consequences, of course, but to keep the communication open is so important. You have to keep talking about it and making sure that they understand, why it is, what it is about your family and your family values that are shaping what you do on social media, who we want to be and who we want to represent and how we want others to feel when they're around us. Because, it's not just like in person, but on social media. How do we want people to feel when they're around us?
Right. And I think also that that's one other thing that I forgot to touch on when talking about having my own kids have their own social media accounts. One thing that I try to model, and I have done for years now, is I get consent from any
Mm.
person whose image I am sharing on my account. And I have a quick little blip that is a text, and it says, I'm not in the habit of sharing others' images without first asking for their consent. Is this okay if I post this on social media? And so in doing that, it does a couple of things. For one, it pumps the brakes on me, because sometimes I'm like, oh, I don't really, if it's a group picture, I'm like, I don't even have all of these people's contact information, so I can't post this, so
Mm-hmm.
it's that. But also it's like, do I want to go through these multiple steps? So it's like sometimes yes, sometimes no. But it also models for my kids and their friends, because if I've got a great picture of, like, say, them and, excuse me, if I've got a great picture of them, say at a sports event or something like that with their buddies, I, I model, I'm modeling that behavior of consent to their friends as well as them. And I think, I hope that that is a powerful message,
Oh,
because
so good.
it sends a message of respect as well, because they can say, oh, I really hate that picture. And I'm like, no problem. I will not post it,
I love
and
that.
and typically it's on a group thread, or, so people have seen me back down, and say, no problem. I respect your choice. So
So important. I love that so much. And I do the same thing. I typically don't post really a lot of things that I'm doing like that. Like if I go to an event, it's not like I'm posting. That's what I've chosen to not do.
mm,
If I'm posting, it's because I have a thought I want to share, basically. And so,
mm,
but same thing. We talk about consent all the time, and how would that person feel to see a picture? How would you feel if that was your picture? Those are important questions to ask yourself uh, before, and for your child to ask before even taking the picture, I think.
right, right.
Because they think that's funny, they think that things are
Mm-hmm.
funny, but they don't have that prefrontal cortex brain power yet to decide if that really is funny. And
Right.
I think in preparing teens, that's probably the most important thing, is to help them understand it's probably not as funny as you think. And before humor, think kindness. I say that all the time to my kids.
Mm-hmm.
Before humor, think kindness, because
Yeah.
they just, they don't get it sometimes, that that's not as funny as they think it is.
Okay. So we spent a long time coming up with the name for our organization. And when we finally decided upon it, we realized that we're passionate about not just delivering the awareness or the gloom and doom of what tech's doing potentially to this generation. And we didn't want to, we wanted to build awareness, but we didn't want to participate in kind of communal hand wringing. We wanted to give people things to do. So habits to establish that will set families up for success. And one of the habits directly correlates to social media. It's called the grandma rule. And can you explain the grandma rule?
I love the grandma rule. It's such an easy one to remember too. So I like to think of it as the way that I think kids can most connect with how to be thoughtful on social media, because who doesn't love a granny, whether it's their own grandma or just a respected member of the community. There's always a grandma in a kid's life that just means the world to them. And so the grandma rule is this: you wouldn't, I should say it like this. Before you post, think about grandma. If you wouldn't want grandma to see it, then don't send it, right? Because wouldn't you be mortified if grandma saw a sexting post? I mean, I think that's a really easy way for kids to get it, because, and adults too, right? I wouldn't want my grandma, if she were alive, to see anything like that. I think
Right. Or anything unkind. I mean, you kind of want to
right.
put your best foot forward. I feel like it builds it teaches an internal filter somehow by putting it outside, by making it a third party individual. It's like, oh, would I be okay with grandma seeing this?
Right. Because like I said, I think for teenagers, they think everything is funny. I mean, you should see some of the memes that are out there. And I think if they put it in that perspective with that filter, like you were saying, that actually this would be quite offensive to grandma, then it helps them remember, oh, well, maybe this isn't the best choice.
Right. Okay. We're going to take a short break. And when we come back, I'm going to ask Jeannie for her healthy screen habit. Founded in 2015, Bark Technologies provides a parental control app that monitors and alerts parents to online threats. Bark was created for parents by parents to offer a better, easier, and more effective way to keep children safe online. Bark monitors posts and messagings for things like signs of bullying and communication with dangerous strangers. Bark's algorithms analyze all activity and issue parents notifications via their chosen communication method. Gain peace of mind and get 10% off of Bark service for life by using the Healthy Screen Habits link. Go to our website at healthyscreenhabits.org, click on the Tools button in the drop-down menu, and look for products we endorse to find Bark. Peace of mind is just a bark away. We're back. I'm talking with Jeannie Sprague, my good friend and colleague at Healthy Screen Habits. Jeannie, as you well know, on every episode of the Healthy Screen Habits podcast, I ask for a healthy screen habit that our listeners can put into practice in their own home. Do you have one?
I do. It's called Bedtime on my Android device. And what it does is it takes the time that you set. I try to do it an hour before bedtime. So every night my phone turns to grayscale, which means that all of my phone is without color. Like there's no single part that has color displayed. And so it is black and white, and it is horrid to look at. There's just no interest in looking at a phone that is black and white. So I encourage you to try it. I love that it keeps me off. Not that I really want to gravitate to my phone all the time, but sometimes I do. And this is just an easy way for me to say, nope, I don't want to look at my phone right now. It also silences all of my notifications until 7 a.m. So I have a 9 to 7 set up. I know some people have different bedtimes, but you definitely could just alter it to different times during the day. But try it. Try putting your phone to grayscale at the very least, and you'll be surprised how much you'll just keep your phone away from you.
Thank you. It keeps that use intentional.
Exactly.
If you'd like to find out more healthy screen habits for your own family, please visit our website at healthyscreenhabits.org. As always, a complete transcript of this episode can be found in today's show notes. You find these by going to that website, healthyscreenhabits.org, click on the podcast button, and use the drop-down menu to find this episode. Jeannie, I can't thank you enough for coming on here, the podcast, and helping us all learn healthy habits around social media.
Thank you, Hillary. You're awesome.
For more information, you can find us on Instagram and Facebook at Healthy Screen Habits. Make sure to visit our website, healthyscreenhabits.org, where you can subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts or via RSS, so you'll never miss an episode. It's free, it's fun, and you get a healthy new screen habit each week. While you're at it, if you found value in this show, we'd appreciate you giving us a quick rating. It really does help other people find us and spread the word of healthy screen habits. Or if you'd simply like to tell a friend, we'd love that too. I so appreciate you spending your time with me this week, and I look forward to learning more healthy habits together.